from this point, they can take the story wherever they want it to go. And so now I think this is a chance to really, really see if it's going to get fun. Welcome to the Talkin Bout podcast. I'm your host, TW. Whoever you are and wherever you may be, I know you have so many choices for your entertainment, so thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with me. I'm about to try something a little bit different, something I haven't really done a whole lot of, but we're going to give it a try and see if you guys like it. If you guys like it, we'll keep doing it, because obviously I want to feed you guys content that you actually want. I'm going to be reviewing Bel-Air. I really enjoyed the first season of Bel-Air. I thought it was, a really great take on a classic TV show, and, pretty much for anybody who hasn't seen it, they pretty much reimagined the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as a dramatic series, and they took the main characters, the Banks family, Jazz, Will, and they said, what if these same kind of characters took place in the modern day world? What would this story look like? Odds are it probably wouldn't be a comedy, right? Especially with the circumstances that got Will to LA, to Bel-Air, to, be living with the Banks. And so I thought the first season was dope, man. I really enjoyed it. I thought they did a good job of integrating, or reimagining classic moments from the original show and, putting their own twist on them. I thought they did a lot of that. And so, the cool thing is, with this being season 2, I thought they kind of served their purpose, right? This show was birthed out of a trailer that someone made where, again, basic concept was, if you were to take the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and make it a movie, but make it like a dramatic movie, and you take, these characters and you put them into the world of drama, right? Where things are happening, they're more serious. It's not like a comedic happy ending to a 30-minute episode. And what would that look like, right? Somebody did a trailer for this. I forget the creator's name. But eventually this made it across the desk of Will Smith. And, Will Smith, never being one to pass up an opportunity to try something different or try something cool, he found his creator and they made the show. They cast a young man who was, I don't think you could have picked a better person to play Will Smith in this recreation of the show. He has enough of the same traits to where you can see, right? Like, to me, I think he's a fair representation of this Will Smith character. And I'm pretty sure Will Smith had a hand in casting him. So yeah, I mean, like, if the man picked somebody to play himself, or, kind of not necessarily himself, but, the version of himself that he imagined this dramatic reenactment of the Fresh Prince to be. But I think he's done a great job. I think he's done a great job. He's done a great job bringing emotion to the character. He has that Fresh Prince kind of swag to him. He can be funny. You can see when he's doing like a lot of the, silly kind of, the faces and the voices and, the Will Smith inspired stuff, trying to give that feel of the original Will Smith character. I think he just does a great job, like, bringing it to life, obviously with his own spin, his own twist on it. And, I really enjoyed season 1. And season 2 came back this past week. So we're going to be reviewing it every week on the pod here. I'm going to try to get these out consistently every week within a couple of days of the episodes dropping. The episode drops on Thursdays every week. Because it's on demand on Peacock, I'm not sure when everybody is watching it, right? I'm not sure when everybody's watching it. So I'm not sure when the conversation will be the hottest about it, right? So I gotta figure out when's gonna be the best time for everybody to consume these, as far as, within a couple of days of the episode actually dropping. Who knows? If I find out that everybody is kind of talking about the episode as it's happening, I might go live as soon as, I don't know, maybe 9-10 o'clock on Thursdays. We'll see. I gotta see how receptive you guys are to this to this topic, and then we'll see, when these shows are going to drop going forward. I'd love to have like a live discussion with everybody reacting to the episode as if they just watched it. So, we'll see how this goes. But in the meantime, in between time, let's get into episode 1. So the first thing we see here is we catch up with Will. We see Will and we find out he's been living in South LA, right? Basically the hood. He's been living with Jazz, and we see him, he's going to the store, picking up some food, and he's flashing cash. He's tipping people and, paying for stuff in cash. And we see him kind of meet up with somebody and talk to them in the store. And, he hands them a nice little roll of cash. And it sounds like they're trying to arrange some sort of meeting with somebody. And, Will tells him like, hey, connect me with the guy. We don't know who this guy is. He's like, connect me with the guy and let him know, I'm taking my future seriously. So in watching this, the audience, we automatically are asking ourselves, what is he doing to get all this cash? What is Will into? Obviously, you one of your first thoughts is like, yo, is he out there trying to sell some of that stuff? You know what I mean? Is he partaking in that white girl? So we want to know what Will is doing, right? And as it goes on, we find out that he's been away from the banks for about 2 weeks. So not too much time has passed from the time the season ended up until we see him now. There hasn't been a whole lot of time that's elapsed. And he mentions that he's been playing pickup games of basketball. So basically hustling people for cash. Later in the show, we see that Will does get connected with the guy who he had been wanting to talk to. Now, this guy is someone he thinks is a sports agent. If you remember back to last season, Will was a top basketball recruit. He was, he was killing people in the parks, obviously playing for cash. That's the situation, ended up getting him in trouble. And then, it all kind of fell apart. He's trying to get back out there to getting recruited. He's really trying to take control of his own destiny. Like, he doesn't want to feel like he got away from Philly, came out to this place that he loves, but he's still dependent on Uncle Phil. And he's really still at odds with Uncle Phil. He hasn't talked to Uncle Phil in a while since he left him. Again, it's only been 2 weeks, but, I think we can all kind of relate to the idea of leaving, of having a family beef that can carry on, can linger for longer than you might like to. I sure can. So these things happen. They happen. So he hasn't talked to Uncle Phil in a while, and he's really trying to take control of his own destiny, trying to get himself back into the recruiting circle, or back out there on the radar. And there's this guy who he believes can do that for him. So in order to get in front of this guy, he has Jazz take him to to kind of like a pickup game out in somewhere in one of those beachside basketball courts, and he volunteers to step up and play. And the guy who they send out to play him is like a dude who looks like Eddie Curry. God, that reference probably dated me a lot. But this big dude who was just really just backing Will down, backing him down, scoring on him easy. Eventually Will gets the ball and he doesn't miss, right? Like he kills the dude once he gets the ball, and he gets a chance to go up and meet the guy who he thinks is the agent, and he kind of makes a little bit of an impression on him, but the guy leaves it open ended. And later in the show, Will gets a call from this dude, right? Will gets a call from the guy, and the guy lets him know that, hey, maybe we can do some business together. Maybe, let's see if there's something I can do for you. And Will's very excited because he thinks this guy is going to help him get back out there on the national recruiting radar. But then after Will gets off the call with the guy, we see that he has the guy, the agent, that he has a picture of the Banks family up on an iPad. And like there's like some story or something like that. And so he knows that the Banks family has money. He knows that Will is a part of this family. And so we're led to believe that this guy is going to try some sort of scheme to get close to the Banks' money. we also know that Will is very determined, right, to kind of be the one taking charge of his own future. Like, he doesn't want to feel dependent on his relationship with Uncle Phil. Speaking of that relationship with Uncle Phil, so we mentioned that Will and Uncle Phil hadn't talked for a while, right? So what's been going on with the Banks family? So let's start with Ashley. When we go into when we see the Banks when we see the Banks at home, they're all kind of sitting around, having breakfast, getting ready for their days or whatever, and everyone's preparing for Ashley's birthday. Ashley's birthday's coming up, and they're asking like what she wants. She has a party coming up, and she makes it known that the only thing she really wants is for Will to come home and for Will to come to her party. And everyone's like, we don't really know if we don't know if we can make that happen. We haven't talked to Will. We don't know what's going on. So then we see Ashley at school, and Ashley's in class, and then her teacher in this scene is played by Tatiana Ali, who played Ashley in the original show. Which, sidebar, one thing I really do like about this show is I mentioned that they, tried to recreate some of the signature moments from the comedy series, but they haven't tried to retell the exact same story episode for episode. And when they've had people in the show who were a part of the original series, I think it was all done very tastefully. It's not like tongue in cheek, because I think this ultimately wants to be seen as a good dramatic series. And Tatiana Ali's cameo here really is a great example of that, right? So she was playing Ashley's teacher, and we see Ashley come up to her after class, and she invites Ashley to do a book report on a book about women in the Black Panther Party movement. Now, as Ashley and her teacher are talking, we kind of see over Ashley's shoulder, one of her classmates, a white girl, is just really looking, and she really just gives off super Karen vibes, like super young, my first tattletale Karen vibes. And so we don't know where this is going, but we kind of have an idea. And then we see later in the show, we see Ashley's teacher kind of having what looks to be an argument with some administrators. So I'm sure we'll find out more about exactly what was going on between them. All right, so what's been going on with Carlton? So we see Carlton, he actually picks Will up from Jazz's place, and he brings Will to school. So Will and Carlton are on good terms. They're riding to school together. They got their own little handshake, and they get to school, and Carlton was in an interesting place, right? Because he was one of the more popular kids at his school, but there was always this weird kind of energy of not feeling totally comfortable, right? Like he was, a black dude in a very white space. And I felt like I got the sense there was a lot of Carlton compromising himself to be a part of those groups. And it seems like he doesn't really want to do that anymore. He didn't really want to be that way anymore. He kind of dumped some of those friends who were, making him feel that way. And so now, Carlton wants to try to find new friends, right? Because he doesn't want to hang out with, I think it was like the lacrosse boys and, whoever were those people. But he also has a new girl that he's interested in. And Will finds a way to help connect Carlton with her. She's actually the president of the school's Black Student Union. And so Will and Carlton end up going to a meeting so that Carlton can get a chance to see the girl. And the people in the members of the Black Student Union, they really push back on Carlton because they're like, hey, we only saw you when you were running for class president, and you haven't really been around here since. And so then Carlton's back like, oh, well, all you guys do is complain. I'm like, this has a chance to get really weird. But it looked like they kind of came to some common ground, a little bit of understanding, and it kind of seemed like Carlton, and it seemed like he wanted to be like an active part of the Black Student Union. So we'll see where this goes, and ultimately we really just want to see if he gets a chance to connect with the girl, because that's that's the whole reason he joined. But also, if you have somebody like Carlton who can get more in touch with, his black friends, I'm really rooting for him from that perspective. So Aunt Viv, when we last saw Aunt Viv, she was hanging out with sneaky Michael Ealy, and he was trying to manipulate her, trying to get in close to her or whatever. And we see Aunt Viv now, she is getting ready to do an art internship, and really she plans on being a big part of a new gallery opening. And we see her doing an interview to promote her new internship and the new gallery presentation. But the way that the interview was kind of happening, the way that the reporter was asking her questions, I had a feeling that she was going to get misquoted, or her words were going to get twisted, and she was going to be made to look like a bad guy somehow in this situation. And sure enough, later in the show, when the interview comes out, it turns out that they're really just kind of painting Vivian like she just wants to be, like she's out of touch with what the gallery is trying to do. And, just really just not a good look. It was bad press before the thing even got kicked off, so that can't be good. Hillary. So remember, Hillary was trying to get her social media following up, and she was a part of this creator house, and the guy was really trying to get her to just do creepy stuff, and like cooking her underwear and like all this other stuff. And this season, we see that Hillary is now in partnership with another young lady, because they bought the creator house. Turns out the guy was in all kinds of debt and yada yada yada. And so Hillary is now supposed to be like co-partners of running the house. But the girl who is who's her partner, she is kind of just treating Hillary like a manager. Like she wants her to do the dirty work of, firing the boys and, managing the people within the house, basically all the work of it. And Hillary's partner just wants to like promote her liquor brand and, and be out front. Like she wants to have her name over everything, but she wants Hillary to do all the hard work. So Hillary has a little talk with her and tries to get her to, come to, just kind of rethink their partnership in terms of, who has the power and who's doing what. All right. So Uncle Phil is, I think, a very big key, an interesting piece to the story, and how it's going to be portrayed going forward. Uncle Phil, he's deciding to go back into work, now that his election bid is over. And once he's back in the office, we see him talking to his coworkers, and, Phil wants to do a lot more kind of community involved work after, trying to do the politics thing. He got a chance to, get more in touch with people, and he wants to do more meaningful work now. His coworkers didn't necessarily seem so eager, but then they kind of seem like they'll go along with it. So we'll see how that develops as the season goes on. The big moment for this episode was Ashley's birthday party. So Ashley was having her 13th birthday party on a boat, and right, just like any normal 13-year-old, right? A birthday party on a yacht. And I guess the big question was, would Will be able to make the party? And if Will was to make the party, would Will and Uncle Phil be able to reconnect? Will does make it to the party after he plays the pickup basketball game and gets a chance to meet the guy he thinks is an agent. And so Will's on the boat, he's, talking to Aunt Viv, talking to all the family. He and Uncle Phil kind of seeing each other from, across the boat, but not really talking, not really, kind of avoiding each other. And eventually, Uncle Phil pulls him to the side and they have a conversation, and, they're able to hash things out. They're able to kind of hash things out. And at the end of the show, end of the episode, Will moves back in, and we're going to see where the season goes from here. So in the preview for the season, for the upcoming episodes, we see that this situation with Will trying to get recruited and be involved with this agent is gonna probably be the thing that causes a lot of rift between, you know, him and Uncle Phil going forward, because, you know, Uncle Phil don't trust nobody, right? Uncle Phil, he fired Jeffrey, his Alfred, right? He fired Jeffrey because Jeffrey, you know, crossed him, even though it was to try to help Will. That's another relationship to keep an eye on. You know, we're going to see if Uncle Phil and Jeffrey can kind of repair their relationship. I have a feeling that the guy who is connecting Will to this agent is going to turn out to be Jeffrey's son. That's a little hunch I have. So we'll see if that turns out to be true. But yeah, man, it looks like a setup for, you know, for a good season. I think it's really cool. Now that they've gotten that first season out of the way, where they paid homage to the original series, they touched on a lot of the key moments from the original series. You know, Will trying to reconnect with his dad. Will's mom and her relationship with Aunt Viv. Will and Jazz and all that stuff. Now that they've gotten that stuff out of the way, I feel like now the writers are free to kind of reimagine this story truly in their own way. From this point, they can take the story wherever they want it to go. And so now I think this is a chance to really, really see if it's going to get fun. You know, I mean, I've already enjoyed it so far, but I think now at this point, it kind of becomes its own show. So I'm really interested. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. And yeah, I mean, like I said, from the preview, it looks like, you know, this season has a lot of good stuff coming up, and, you know, I'm definitely looking forward to it. But let me know what you guys think of it. Did you guys like this episode? Do you think this season's off to a good start? You know, what do you think is going to happen with Will and getting recruited? What do you think is going to happen with Will? Oh, I forgot to mention, Will broke up with his girlfriend, with the love interest. Do you think those guys are going to find their way back together? Do you think there's going to be a new girl? So yeah, like, there's a lot of stuff to cover. This is a fun episode. I'm looking forward to this. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Let me know what, if there's something else you guys want to hear me review on the pod. You can tweet me at Talkin Bout Pod. You can email the show at talkinboutpod@gmail.com. As always, tweet me, I tweet back. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and the best thing you can do for the show is tell a friend to tell a friend. I love talking about this stuff with you guys, and I'd love to bring more people into the conversation. So yeah, let's get the word out there. All right. So I'll catch you guys next time. I'm TW.